Welcome back to
Nerds!
I'm your host, Zackary. With me is joined my host,
Lucas.
And today Lucas will be endlessly ranting dumb shit about...
Good horror.
Good horror.
Good horror. Basically, what makes good horror.
Okay.
And there are many interpretations of horror and ways you can do it, and there are plenty of good ways in horror. These are just like a few ways that I think are really interesting and fun, and like actually kind of scare me a little bit. So,
and we were talking genre specific because we had this discussion outside of the episode of like, you don't quite feel anything for like body horror, but someone else might absolutely love that type of horror. So I think what are we talking about? We're talking about Stalker.
So we're talking about like psychological / like stalker horror, kind of
like deep suspense and fear,
where you barely see the killer or the monster or something like that, and most of the time it's mostly the paranoia of the characters or yourself that is really driving the horror. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. But before we really get into that, we gotta talk about how we're doing.
Am I starting?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not doing too bad. It's been I'm gonna name it Grandma Week. Because my hips have been hurting, my back's been hurting, my knees been hurting, my feet have been hurting.
It's that weather fluctuation.
It's just, I've been aching.
Killing the joints.
We have, our AC's not working in this house, or in this apartment that we're in right now, so it's been aching, joints, and sweating while we're sleeping. So it's like laying down, almost fully nude, sitting up in bed, being like, well, I guess I'll try to go to bed.
Oh god, I so get it.
It's horrible.
So hot.
But not too bad. The week's been pretty good in Dragon Realms. I love that this podcast is just a weekly update of Dragon Realms.
It kind of is.
Leveled you guys up to level 4.
Yeah.
In lieu of getting into the real nitty-gritty of Act 2. So I'm excited about that.
It's so fun.
I love giving level ups when it's not asked for.
Mm-hmm.
There's something so satisfying of being like, alright, you guys defeated the boss as we move on, blah, 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 here's your day.
Well, none of us were expecting a level up there, so it really hit home and made everyone cheer.
If you were expecting a level up, then I won't give you one.
That's really how you go.
Yeah.
You're so much of the, I want to be different and cool, so I'm going to use the stuff that most people don't.
I usually just plan my level ups.
That's true.
Even it's like when you guys defeated... Oh, what boss did you defeat before you guys got the level up 3? Where you thought that's when you were going to level up?
What boss did we fight?
There was something. Was it the Onkegs?
It was the Onkegs.
Yeah. Which was just a full contract side quest in my eyes.
Honestly it was, but I could see why...
It was...
I could see why our friend thought it should be a level up,
100%.
because...
I had a painted mini. I had a whole map.
Yeah, painted mini. It had a specific boss, and like from coming off of my campaigns, where like very cinematic fights are usually where the level ups are, it would make sense that they thought that was where the level up would be. So.
I usually do, and now that I think about this, the Matt Mercer thing, where it's like you guys rarely will get a level up because of a boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will level up mostly when arcs finish.
Yes,
when you defeat the main premise of the arc, not because you defeated a very powerful boss. That usually is due or because of the arc, but that's rarely why you're going to get a level up.
No, that's very fair. And to be fair, you haven't had like a full like boss fight that has lasted the entire session, which is usually where my boss fights are.
Yeah.
So, like...
We've had dungeons, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
We've had long fights that have multiple stages, but no. I don't think it's realistically possible, unless it's a homebrew enemy, to have a 6-hour-long boss fight. Because even things like dragons, it's like, you're a party that can deal 300 damage in a few turns. It's just a question of how many can I kill before that.
Yes.
Which is what I've been enjoying of the much shorter, sweeter combats that are like still very deadly, because I'm not changing HP. I'm not changing like, this has 300 HP, but it's only going to do little damage. I'm like, no. This is what the stat block says. It says it's only got 80 HP, but it's going to deal 3d10 damage to you.
For sure. I just really enjoy very big cinematic fights that drag out. So
Dragon?
But
well, definitely. I have one semi-planned for the future, which I'm excited about. But yeah, we got to do a level up 4. You guys essentially cleared a sewer dungeon, a river sewer dungeon,
basically,
and then got into town, did a little rest at a waterfall pool, and then I was like, all right, guys, level up. Everyone was like, what?
It just felt very unexpected.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. I loved that fight. It was a lot of fun. I actually rolled well, which is uncommon for me.
We struggled a little bit in the beginning.
A little bit.
But towards the end, we started to get much better, and it was very fun.
Once I was, like... I think I only had, 2 attacks I missed, which is a rarity.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I feel like I did pretty...
And I got to have you drop your weapon or lose your right. So that's always a good thing for me.
Once per combat.
Always.
Once per combat, I go down.
Hey, that's just you being a pussy.
I don't think it is.
Weirdly enough, you're sort of the only one. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because you put yourself in the front lines. Because I target everyone equally. I've done that very consciously of okay, I'm not just focusing on one person. It's we're going to spread the attacks around. You just happen... Oh, that's what we joked about. I always crit on you, but roll medium damage, and then another one of my friends that plays, I always barely hit him, but it's always max.
Yeah.
And it's ooh.
But they're also playing a barbarian, so it doesn't matter too much. But no, for it is an unspoken joke and kind of rule at the table. It has happened between multiple DMs. I will always get crit on super hard. I just get nat 20'd on way too fucking hard.
It's so weird. And obviously, we're not secretly rolling.
No, I know. Yeah. It's not no one is really targeting me or anything.
It's just
it's just the dice really are all right, we're gonna put 3 nat 20s on Lucas, and I'm
it's always oh, Ajax is gonna run out of. He's just gonna take a quick swipe at the dagger, an opportunity attack. All right, that's a nat 20. It's gonna be 36 points of damage.
Exactly.
It's oh,
so it's not necessarily that you're targeting me or anything, or the damage is on scale.
Small.
I just get nat 20 a lot, and it brings me down really fast.
And now you're playing a blood hunter who is taking damage to do things.
Dude, even when I was playing Elliot, who was a full fucking barbarian and had a huge amount of hit points, one attack I would be at half health.
Damn.
All the time. It happened constantly. Because I kept getting nat 20'd on, and for whatever reason, the damage was never physical. So it was always just me getting my shit kicked in because of that. So
that's what I liked about the little dungeon we did. It was a lot of damage, but I knew that it was mostly bludgeoning, piercing, and cold, which... One of my players is resistant to all 3 of those things. Another one of my players is resistant or immune to cold in general.
And then I'm resistant to poison.
And you're resistant to poison, which was another big part of the damage. So I was I don't mind throwing a little bit of extra damage because so much of you guys are resistant to at least this main form. But that was a very fun one. And I was I know this is going to be a very tough boss fight. But I don't think we really had gotten to do a good fight since you guys had leveled up to level 3. Yeah. So I was this is the fun one. You guys get to test your mimic. It's specifically undead. So for your Blood Hunter Rite of Dawn, you got extra damage.
What was nice about that combat, and we joked that Ajax didn't really do much. No, he did a lot. It just wasn't a lot of attacking.
Yeah.
He did a lot of setup and figured out weaknesses and
He summoned Boney.
I summoned Boney, which is I can summon a D6 because of a deadlift ring that I have.
Yeah. You get to
raise skeleton boy. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's horrible. Little dapper. It was in my metals class where I casted a plastic skeleton and then I glued him onto a base and I was fuck it, we're gonna use him as a skeleton.
So we have this little bronze gold skeleton that we use, and To be fair, I barely used him because there wasn't a lot of situations where you guys were either using or fighting undead in my campaigns.
Yeah, and at that point, by the time I made it, we were already halfway through or something.
Yeah.
So it was like, we're not going to be fighting just a basic skeleton. That's why I was like, I'll give you a raid that lets you summon a skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's forever used.
And I use him a lot, so it's great.
But no, my week's been pretty good. Dragon and Realms has been fun. We don't have Cyberpunk this Tuesday. So we get to, in Dragon Realms, move on to...
Sad, because Cyberpunk just really hit for me, and I'm like, oh, now I understand how exciting this can be. And then we're like, hey, we're taking a week off. I'm like, ah!
But yeah, we get to start doing travel once again. I'm excited to get back into travel, because...
I'm excited for that, too.
I gotta figure out quite what I want.
I know I want a couple of like roleplay things.
Oh yeah, you guys are gonna have a lot of time to just sit and talk.
Because we have as a group haven't had like a real. We've had moments where we've talked, but not like a real time to just sit down and be like, "Hey, doing a check-in. How's everyone doing?" You know? Yeah. So
the last big talk you guys had was one of our players, Fleabag, being like, "I'm paranoid. We have to run," and everyone being like, "I guess we can if you want." But no, I'm excited for it. Other than that, I started a new book series, but I'll get into that with my weekly obsession.
There we go.
So, playing Helldivers.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked about that off screen. So, but how are you?
I'm alright. This week has been weird. Like, I'm not doing bad personally. Work has just been weird.
Okay.
Again, he's not going to watch this ever.
The same manager?
Yeah, same manager. He's really been on me this week for no real particular reason.
Love it.
So about 2 weeks ago, he had asked me to, or 3 weeks ago, he asked me to clean out a drain. Yeah. Which I thought I did.
Yeah.
Apparently, I didn't do it to the point that he wanted.
He wanted you to, get a New York bar, elbow fist that shit.
No, he wanted me in the drain.
Yeah, he wanted you deep in there, just fisting that stuff.
Which...
no one's going to assume
that's what you want. Yeah. I fully took off the head of the drain, cleaned that all up, cleaned around it. I was like, okay, drain is clean. I did not expect me to have to do that. Yeah. My boss has a stepson that I work with. He really lays into his stepson real hard whenever stuff isn't done. It's not okay. Just genuinely, it's kind of mentally abusive. It's bad. Yeah. I don't like it. So he took me to the side and was just like, "Hey man, I told you to clean out the drain." And I was like, I thought I did. And he was like, "Man, you didn't do it to the way that I wanted it." I was like, "Man, you should have." I was
told me how you wanted it.
I was trying to say you should have told me that, and then he was just cutting me off and was like, "Man, I like you a lot. I'm not gonna yell or anything. I really don't want to get on to you for stuff like this. I know how much you can handle. I already laid into Andrew about this." I'm like, "Dude, why are you telling me that? That's not okay."
Yeah.
And I see it all the time, and it just bothers the heck out of me.
Gross.
So, since he took me aside and told me that, he's really just been on me. And I'm like, "Dude, you know I can do a good job. Why are you just really on my case right now?"
Yeah.
And so he's now made a cleaning list, and
I hate when managers do that.
He's made a cleaning list that the whole kitchen is supposed to do. It's not going to be the whole kitchen. It's mostly just going to be me and Andrew because we're his errand boys. And it's just getting annoying.
Yeah.
Just getting really annoying. I was really upset Monday. God-awfully upset Monday. Because I had to cook.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Or not Monday, Wednesday. Yes. I had to cook, which is fine. But one of my coworkers is out because their family just died. Their dad just died, and they were going to their funeral. So I was like, fair enough, I'll cook. Jamie...
Pick up. Wait, it is 17 minutes into the episode. Keep that noted.
Okay, big up. So he's right next to me on egg station. I'm on fucking middle, and the entire time he's like, "You gonna talk to me?" Blah 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 blah. Like just on my case the entire day.
Oh my god.
I was silent and mad because when I get real mad, I don't talk.
Me too.
And that became an issue because I'm not calling out my stuff. And the rest of the people know when I get upset, I don't talk. So they usually just leave me alone and do my job because I'm really not bad at my job.
Yeah.
Just would not leave me alone. So yeah, that's how my week has been. It has just been a lot of that. We're supposed to have a mandatory kitchen meeting Saturday to talk about it all. I'm like, come on, dude.
I feel you. Management is just nitpicky, and it's not fun.
And he especially is just nitpicky. So
yeah. But other than that,
everything else has been fine. Doing fine. I've just been playing, like I said, Helldivers. Then also playing another game, Lethal Company. That's been a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Which part of that is going to be my weekly obsession. We'll get into that. But
your weekly obsession? Having friends.
No, my weekly obsession
We'll get into
it. Yeah.
No, get into it now.
Oh, okay.
Unless
sure.
you got
weekly
anything
obsession.
else to say.
No, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So weekly obsession. I'm mostly wanting to talk about a specific YouTuber, actually.
Okay.
YouTuber / Twitch streamer. He's mostly a Twitch streamer called Maximilian Dude. I've talked about him before to you.
Mm-hmm.
I have been watching a lot of his stuff lately.
Okay.
And it's been really, really fun. For people who don't know, Maximilian Dude is a YouTuber / streamer who's been mostly into fighting games and has been really trying to keep the retro arcade style fighting games alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing this for 15, 16 years, before YouTube really was a big thing.
Yeah.
And before streaming even was a big thing. He was one of the first people to actually stream some stuff.
Okay, get it.
He's been around for a long time, has a huge fan base, and this man, I don't know him, so I'm not gonna be I love this man.
I take a bullet for this
man. But this man has done a lot of good work that I just really respect. He's raised a lot of money for charity. He's got a second channel with 3 other friends called Yo Video Games, where they meet up every weekend and just shoot the shit and play arcade and games and all this kind of stuff together. All super fun. And I've been watching him for a few years now. I was there when his daughter was born.
Oh.
So watching her also grow up, Ripley.
Mm-hmm. Great name.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a huge Aliens fan, Terminator fan. So he was of course I'm gonna name my daughter Ripley. That's the best name ever.
Oh yeah.
I just really respect this dude so far. If I ever do meet him, I would love to just give him a firm handshake and
a good nod, a firm handshake.
Good nod for him. I would just like to really show that I respect this guy.
Yeah.
He's his content has been really nice, helpful, and it's gotten me into fighting games. Mm-hmm. I've gotten into Guilty Gear and stuff like that. It's been a hell ton of fun. So yeah, that's kind of been my weekly obsession.
Just him?
It's just him.
Have you been watching
something
content specific?
He has some Lethal Company videos with video games that's been hilarious. But also he's been playing Tekken 8, which has been super fun to watch. It's just good to watch somebody who's really good at their craft,
Always.
So watching somebody who's just super good at fighting games, just beat the shit out of somebody, but also just does good commentary is super fun.
Yeah.
And just what else have I been watching of his? Just him. He's also a big Final Fantasy fan.
Oh,
so I've been watching his Final Fantasy videos, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just came out.
Oh.
So he's, him being the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan that even like the Final Fantasy team knows. Like, he has a video he has a moment where he talks about meeting the developers of Final Fantasy, and they were like, "Hey, can we get a picture with you?" And he was like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" And he's like, in the development of Final Fantasy VII Remake, when the team would get really exhausted and tired, they would show his reaction to the trailer to the team to give them energy.
I love that.
And he's obviously like about to cry when he's telling this, but it's just it really shows how much he loves this series. So watching him play Rebirth, like I watched him play all of Remake because even when I was playing it, just because I loved his reactions, and now watching him play Rebirth is just kind of a magical time. Mm-hmm. So because it's somebody who also really loves this series, but probably way more than I do. Even just get something that they really deserved in my eyes. Yeah. So it's just nice.
I love that.
So yeah. So what is your weekly obsession?
My weekly obsession will soon be your weekly obsession next week, because I'm forcing you to take part in this.
Okay.
It is a new book series I found. I hadn't finished, but I almost finished my second book of my sci-fi series, the Chasm City. I started to get a little tired of sci-fi, so I was like, let me hop back into fantasy, because I kind of switch between those. And I was like, I don't know what to read. I have a lot of books, and I have a credit. But I told you about this book the book Black Talon.
Yes.
And I was like, it's free on Audible. The first 3 books are free. I was like, let me give it a try. It's a cool premise. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. Not many people are going to get some of the references I'm about to say, but you'll get it detailedly. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's voiced by the husband and wife that voices The Way of Kings.
Love that.
So
I didn't know they were husband and wife. That's awesome.
Yeah. Michael Kramer and Kate Readings, which isn't her real name, but I think that's his real name. Unless that's not his real name. But yeah, husband and wife. They've been doing this like voice acting for like I think 40 years or something.
Yeah, they do Audible a lot.
Oh yeah. So I pulled this up and I was like,
I think they also did Shadow of the Conqueror, which I've talked about before.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure they did. Anyway, continue.
I pulled this up and I was like, why does that name sound familiar? And I click on his name, and the first thing is Word of Radiance, the second book. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh shit! And of course, wherever you find him, you're gonna find his wife. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my god. So I start the series, and it was really disorientating at first, because I had listened to about 50-ish hours of Way of Kings and Word of Radiance with them. Mm-hmm. And so starting a new series, listening to his voice, I was like, Dalinar? Kaladin? Shallan? I was like, oh wait, none of these people are here. Mm-hmm. But it's a dual story.
Yeah.
And it's 2 assassins. It's Cullen, the Black Talon.
Yeah.
Assassin for the Emperor. Emperor is like an old grandfather, essentially. And you then follow Natissa, who is an assassin for essentially a thieves guild named the Crimson Fang. Mm-hmm. And the world is set in almost medieval style, where dragons exist, but it's not like we ride dragons into battle. It's like they have things called blood surging, which is a little similar to surge binding, but it's like little vials they have that has like a little needle on them, and they have to like press their thumb to activate the blood surge. And all dragons are in a separate realm, like an elemental realm, and they don't just stay in the world. Mm-hmm. It's like a whole thing of dragons can be summoned, and for the blood surge to stay like active between the what do they call them? Dragons call they're like bonded people. It's like blood something. Mm-hmm. It's like your not blood mate.
Bloodbound.
I think Bloodbound it's not, yeah. Yes, because our main dude calls some other people to explain to the dragon what it means. He's like, oh, it's my heart bound or my soul bound. So you kind of get the premise.
Yeah.
But to keep the Bloodbound like strong, they have to be summoned once a day, but they can't stay in the world because they need to be around the energy they're consisted of. So a fire dragon has to feed off of fire. And so
oh, that's interesting.
They like when they're summoned, they usually are dissummoned, not quickly, but it leads to a very fun thing where the world is not just full of dragons. It is very it's very rare, and only nobility have them. And so you have this like the rich people are having these dragons, and each dragon does something different.
It almost sounds like dragons are almost elemental in a sense.
Very much so, and
it's interesting.
They're sources of power. And the fun thing that Jamie Castle, who writes the book, does about it is that you can blood surge and take the power of the dragon. So our main boy Colin, I almost called him Kaladin. Colin's dragon is a twilight dragon, last of his kind, resides in the shadow realms. So when Colin blood surges, he can choose to like hop between shadows. He can essentially, when he's in darkness, become invisible, and that's sort of the powers he gets. Or he can choose to summon his dragon, but when he summons his dragon, he doesn't get any of the powers because the dragon's there. So it's this fun play of like, do I summon my dragon? Do I just need the powers of my dragon? If I summon it, what is that going to happen? And Colin isn't in the public eye supposed to no one knows he's the Blackthorn, the Emperor's assassin. So he isn't able to just summon his dragon at will. It has to be very secretly, and it's only at nighttime. But it's a world full of just realistic life with a little bit of magic, but it's not much magic because there's not like fire spells. It's like like though someone has essentially a blue dragon, and his thing is like he can swim really fast in water, or like water heals him instantaneously. So it's not like casting spells, but it's just a little bit of magic in the same way that Way of Kings does with their like surge binding. You can take in Stormlight and it heals you quicker, but it's not actually like casting. But it's such a fun story because you have Cullen, the Emperor's assassin, assassinating nobility who the Emperor believes is plotting like an assassination attempt against the Emperor. So Cullen is assassinating nobility, and Natissa is a Thieves Guild member assassinating nobility with dragon bonds because essentially in this world a bond went crazy and a red dragon burned like the poor district, like on scorched them, and it became known as the Embers, and a lot of people lost their lives, and including our main girl, who was found wandering half burned, like her face and arm is like scorched in scars. So the Crimson Fang are assassinating nobility with blood bonds, and the assassinations are always tied, or at least side by side. The first chapter we get is Cullen like about to assassinate a noble dude, and as he's about to like throw the dagger to kill him, the dude to his right is shot with an arrow. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? And he throws the dagger and he kills the dude. And he's like, what the fuck? And so it goes on. And like, towards the third book, it happens again, but reversed, where Natissa is going to kill someone and someone next to her falls dead with a dagger in their throat. And she's like, what the fuck? But it starts to open up a story where you're like, holy shit, this is weirdly connecting in some way. And so far, our two main people have interacted once, and I won't spoil that for you because you need to read this book or at least listen to it. But I'm waiting for the moment where they both realize the connection and then interact, possibly as allies.
Interesting.
But holy shit, Lucas, Cullen is if you took Dalinar but gave him the strength, the speed, the style of I'm forgetting his name.
Kaladin?
No. Zeth.
Oh, really?
And it's oh my god, and of course it's read by the dude, and it's read in the speed, and you've heard Zeth's full intro way of Kings. It's just that 24/7. I love it. And Cullen, the way he interacts and the way he like is talked about is I think around 30. So he's not like a young kid. Natissa I think is like late 20s, early 20s, but Cullen is supposedly seen as a like older man in his 30s possibly. But the combat is beautiful, and it's not... We get the grittiness that Way of Kings doesn't give us because of the shard blades not cutting people. This is like throwing daggers and it like cutting necks and like gurgling of blood. And Natissa has a whip sword, like Bloodborne.
Hell
so
yes.
She's like throwing that shit and like decapitating people's heads.
Let's go.
But it's just as
like
scary because it's this thing of like, as quick as she can throw a dagger to kill someone, it takes one hit for her to die too. And so I think you'll enjoy it because it's not the level of like, ooh, magic, I'm a hero that's overpowered. It's like, our dude Cullen can only use his blood surge like 2 or 3 times before he collapses or risks the possibility of never being able to leave the Shadow Realms. Ooh. So it's this very scary thing where he's like, fuck, he mostly has to rely on his assassin skills. And there's a few times where he kind of pushes it a little too far with blood surging. And he's like, not only is he like physically fatigued and like losing his energy and the possibility of him not being able to detransition out of the Shadow Realms, it's very scary. So everything is, it's realistic. There's nothing that I've been like, okay, that just feels a little like plot armory. The characters play very smartly. The world is set in a very interesting way. We have orcs in this world, but it's not like, oh, we're orcs. It's apparently humans went into a cave, came out as orcs, and the current emperor's like great-great-grandfather was like, hey, come into my land. I'll give you safekeepings. I'll teach you. And now they're known as the Orc Guard, which are like die-hard loyals to the emperor. And they are like 7-8 foot tall actual orcs with like kind of bad English, but are terrifying because every single member of this book is like, you cannot one-on-one with an orc. Like you might be able to, but Cullen has certain points been like, my dagger is not piercing not only the armor they wear, but good luck if it even pierces the hide. And then we get into like, there are things called the sniffers, which are orcs, like a variant of orcs, which are like smaller and have like bloodhound noses. And it's terrifying because they're like, if the sniffer catches your scent, they'll track you for miles, and they can remember that sense essentially till they die. So Cullen is not supposed to be known in the public as the Blackthorn, yet is known as like the Emperor's like. It's a weird way of like, he's just kept around the castle because he knew the Emperor's son before he died, and so he's playing this dual life, and he's like, fuck, I can't get too close to them. But
so he's a fantasy Batman,
kind of
Batman assassin.
Yes, but not for kind of for good. But like, there's no,
for his political reasons.
Yeah, but it's really beautiful because he's an orphan, and it's that thing of like, I was raised in an orphanage and the Emperor took me out, but we get to meet the orphanage, and we get to meet I think Mama Tessa is her name. And it's not like, I'm an orphan, I'm gloating. He's like, they pay for stuff, and the Thieves Guild is done very well, where when they kill, they take a lot of shit from the nobles and resell it and start giving it to the poor people. Like, it's a good fucking book. I really haven't had any moments where I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird.
I'll have to get into it.
Oh, but I meant to show you. That is Cullen and his dragon Umbris.
That's awesome. I'm looking at the cover right now. For
yeah.
people who don't know.
Yeah, it's just The Black Talon by Jamie Castle.
That's awesome. It's so animated.
It is, and it's so cool too. And I just hit the plot twist because I'm almost done with the book. I've got like 4 hours left. It's not long too. It's like 18 hours. But I just got to the plot twist that like really. We've known the plot twist from Natissa's point of view, but Cullen just now realized it. So we're like, oh shit, it's all connecting. But I'm excited to start. The next book I think is The Red Claw, which we've heard mention, but we don't know what that is.
Interesting.
And we don't really know who many of these people are, but we're getting some backstory, and it's just medieval fantasy, but like not really fantasy, and it just feels cool.
Medieval political fantasy.
Yeah. And I don't know if Jamie Castle took a lot of inspirations from Way of Kings, or if it's just the fact that Michael Kramer is reading it, but there's a lot of similarities. The way Jamie writes certain things and the way that he paces combat is very quick paced, very flashy, but also is very I'm in my head, I'm thinking of these 3 steps, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm parrying, I'm dodging, and it's the in Way of Kings where it's they're fighting that, what does Dalinar call it, the surge of battle.
God.
He says a certain word for it.
No, I know. The urge or something like that. Hold on.
But there's moments where it's you're fighting, and it's oh shit, combat stopped, and you're oh, I'm feeling my wounds now. I guess I got stabbed. I guess I got a bruise or something. It's very similar in a sense to Brandon Sanderson. Is it The Thrill?
I think it might be The Thrill.
Yeah, because he's I feel the thrill rising again.
Yeah, The Thrill.
Yeah. This book essentially is if you took Way of Kings without... you cut it in fourth. With all the drama, the intensity, the power, but it wasn't as long and drawn out, but with still a very good plot. So, I think you absolutely need to listen to this book, and you're going to absolutely love it, and it's so easy to fall in love with the characters.
I'm excited. I'll really have to look into it.
I won't... It's not really a spoiler because it's within the first chapter and the second chapter, but they do a very fun thing of we start with Cullen's perspective, and there's a dude being tortured in public. And Cullen's oh, I don't know who that is, I don't give a shit, moves on, goes to kill his noble. We get to chapter 2, and it's Natissa being I've thrown up the last 3 days because my brother in arms is being tortured in public, and I can't do anything to save him, and you're oh! This immediately hurts me.
Oh,
and
man.
So, I've cried the first 3 chapters of hers, because it's just grief. And it's
oh, it's so sad.
But, God, I love this book.
Heck yeah.
And it's weird, because I've listened to Way of Kings, which has Seth, son Zavano, Zavano.
Zeth, son of Villano, Truthus of Zinno.
Yeah, which is an assassin. I have now read Revelation Space, which one of the 3 characters is an assassin attempting to kill another of the main characters. Chasm City, which is the second book in that series by Alistair Reynolds, is about an assassin who is hunting someone that killed his lover through space into a disease-ridden world, and he's an assassin. And now I'm reading The Black Talon, which is about 2 assassins who are assassinating not the same target, but similar targets. So I'm just really on an assassin kick.
Apparently.
But it's so good.
No, I love that. Assassins are cool. They're also just a good plot device. Need somebody who's willing to, go and kill the person that you need to go and kill.
I am coming into terms with how much I love assassin thief media. Playing the game Thief has been really fun, and it's kind of why Assassin's Creed is so fun,
because you feel like a badass assassin.
Until
you get into later games, and it's just all shitty.
But it's the infiltration, it's the stealth, it's the kind of getting to know things, and
it's why I love Dishonored.
Thank you. I was trying to think of the other game, and they do it in a really good way where it's not just, okay, we have a mission, and it's okay, we're doing the mission. It's hey, there are 6 members that have been watching this building for the last 3 days. They've studied the guard rotations. We know exactly when to attack. We have a disguise for you that we've watched work. And it's not just, okay, I'm doing this, and it's because I'm so cool, I can kind of bypass everything. It's oh no, I've watched the building. I know these routes. I know who this person is. I know their power. There's a level of precaution that goes into this that makes it feel very realistic, and that makes it feel like, God, I just want to play a rogue in a D&D campaign. Like a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, I'm a rogue, I'm edgy. It's like, no. It also makes, it's also like, have you had any media that's really gone depth into a Thieves Guild?
Yeah.
I haven't read or like been a part of anything that has, because this, like, we started getting into the Crimson Fang, and it's like, oh, they have like a bookmaster, someone who's incredibly good at mathematics and like looking at like funds and all that. They have like not the specific, but they have like the key stealthy one. Our main girl's kind of the second leader. You would love this. The leader of the Thieves Guild is named Uncle Ronan.
Yay!
And it's like a big thing of family. Like,
Ronan.
there's a speech where it's like all friends, family. But yeah, they call him Uncle Ronan.
I love that.
So I'm like, oh shit, a Thieves Guild is more than just a thief. Like, there's so many different...
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have what they call the Den Mother, which is just this giant human man. But he's like the kind of the medic. And it's like, he is technically a thief still, but he really isn't the thief. He's just the medic. He's the Den Mother.
It's every organization, especially like Thieves Guilds and stuff like that, have to have like specific people that do the operations.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, everyone wants to be the thief. You know, they're going out and doing the field jobs and stuff like that. Not everyone in the Thieves Guild is a thief. There are people who are fences who specifically are there to, you know, buy and sell stolen goods. There are the medics, because thieving can get you hurt. You know, there's the coordinators, the mathematicians, the treasurers. You know, it's not just the Thieves Guild that has that kind of stuff, but it is needed for stuff like the Thieves Guild or any other organization. So it's, you know, it's funny that you say the example I was going to say, that when you were like, have you played a media that has like in-depth Thieves Guild? I was like, yeah. I'm playing a D&D game that basically is like game wars and territory taking and stuff like that, where I play Ronan, who joined the Monarchs, which is specifically a like Thieves Guild, like with an assassin group as well as a gambling group and stuff like that.
I fully forgot about that.
That the entire point of the Monarchs is to be the lesser evils. You know, it's like everyone's going to do this anyway, so we're just going to, you know, have control of it to mitigate it. Yeah, it's like, okay,
you're gonna love this book. You have to listen to it, and it's free on Audible. You don't have to pay for it. Yeah, but I think it is gonna rock your socks off. If I had to drudge through Way of Kings, you can start this.
Absolutely. I played a rogue before that was really good. Lyric. Yeah. He was great because he was a rogue that was set in more of like, it's D&D-esque, but it was set in a like, you know, city, urban city based thing, and he was just a masked vigilante who was like a Robin Hood character, would steal for good.
That's the thieves I love.
Yeah, and that's the thieves I love too. And like, his whole thing was like, I really just want to retire. I just I want to be with my girlfriend and just hang out, and like, I need to do this stuff because there are people who depend on me. But really, a lot of my friends are already dead, and I don't want to get caught up in the same stuff. Yeah. It was fun. But alright, anyway. Horror. Horror can come in many forms. Movies, comics, games. It's almost a joke how many movies come out every day that are shitty horror movies.
Don't forget book horror.
And book horror. Oh yeah, book horror is absolutely a thing. I said comics. That's part of it.
Comics is a very different type of horror.
That's true.
Being shown art of the horror is very different than you actually reading it.
I agree. Everyone is afraid of something, and it's all subjective. But I want to talk about times that I was really on edge, on my seat, like actually scared. That's why I've put together some examples that I think that are some great horror moments. Yeah. Of note, I'm talking about psychological horror.
Yeah.
And stalker horror.
Soccer?
Stalker.
I was like, soccer horror?
No, stalker horror. Horror where you're being hunted and stuff like that. There are the slasher and gore genres.
So many horror genres.
So many genres. I would love to talk about more maybe in a later episode.
We will talk a little bit about cosmic horror because I do want to. That's what gets me.
Absolutely.
Not scared, because if that's the case, we would do like. Actually, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch horror a lot, so I don't. I mean, all horror scares me because I just don't like. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. I don't like doing it alone. When I'm with people, though, I have a blast because we all scream.
I'm trying to figure out what scares me the most because I hate body like horror. I just don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard, or it's hard to get scared just by gore.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel gross out and squeamish.
For me, slasher horror is just not very fun. Like,
it just feels funny.
Kind of, because it's over the top usually.
And it's always like old.
Mm-hmm. Like the amount of blood, the amount of stuff that happens. Like, don't get me wrong. If I was ever put in any of those horror movies, I'd be freaking the fuck out, like scared out of my mind. But ultimately, watching some like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I know it's a classic. I know it's a fan favorite. Not for me.
It's just gross.
It's just gross, and it's not like. At a very young age, I was shown some stuff that I shouldn't have been. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of like, about it.
I think what horror really gets me is it's not a genre of horror, because it kind of goes into all genres, but like biological horror, when things deal with like aliens, the thing, when there's some aspect of some creature or organism or something in a horror movie, that always tends to get me.
For me...
That's why I think we were going to talk about The Ritual.
We absolutely
But that's a little bit of like that biological, like there's a creature that's not just a human or... there's a separate element of you don't understand what this thing is. That's, the thing and the alien are the first two that come to mind of you can't understand what this is, like what it's happening or what it's doing to you. You just kind of have to be like, well... I hope we kill it.
Absolutely.
And I can go into like so many different genres of horror.
It's so interesting, and I've always heard the line like horror and comedy are literally just like separated by a pin needle
hairline,
like a hairline. It, a lot of horror games can be hilarious, and a lot of horror media can be the most terrifying stuff you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to how it's done and what actually scares you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyhow, so I've got like 3 examples.
Do you want to... Are you going to talk about the examples and how they show good horror? Or are they just taking an example?
So I am going to talk about how they show good horror as well as kind of explain what is happening.
I was like, do we need to talk a little bit about what you define as good horror? But I guess that's...
Again, it's all subjective, and I'll be explaining my points while I'm talking about it. I promise. All right. So the first that I have I have an interactive horror, Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
Now I know this is like the horror game that everyone's like, of course, but it's there for a good reason.
Yeah.
So to kind of explain, coming off of the very popular and well-known horror movie franchise Alien, or Aliens. Alien Isolation is a horror game where you play as Amanda Ripley, who is the daughter of Ellen Ripley, to seek out her mother's disappearance at the decommissioned trade station. Lot of weird names for this. Sevastopol.
Let me see it.
Here.
I can't see.
I'm dyslexic, so this one. Sevastopol.
Sevastopol?
Sevastopol, something
Interesting.
like that. Yeah. You join as Amanda, a small crew, and as you make it to the station, you are immediately separated by the crew.
Yep.
You basically do a spacewalk to get to the crew as people are like, "What the fuck's happening?" Because the whole crew is like, "This doesn't make sense. There's like damage here. What happened?"
Yeah.
So you do a spacewalk to try to get to the station, and then some of the station blows up and cuts the spacewalk stuff, and you and 2 others get blown away, and Amanda Ripley is the only one who is able to grab onto the station while the others fly off into space.
And very horrible and slow death.
Very. You then venture forth in a very dark, very quiet, and very abandoned space station, trying hard not to be caught by the xenomorphs that have taken over the station and are hunting anything living. That's basically the premise of it, Alien Isolation. Why I think this game does horror really good, and what makes this game so good at making you feel like you were in a terrible situation is that you are being hunted by incredibly smart predators.
Yeah. Not predators. Aliens.
They basically predators.
No, the predators are a different species.
Oh, har har. But the aliens, or xenomorphs, will actually learn your tactics on how you avoid them. So if you're hiding under in lockers a lot, they will start slamming lockers open.
Yeah.
If you start hiding under beds, they will look under beds very often. The best way to avoid them is to cause distractions. But there are limited means in which you can cause the distractions. And if they sight you, there is no way to fight back.
Yeah.
You have a flamethrower sometimes that you can just at them.
Yeah.
But
if you get caught, you're
essentially dead.
Yeah.
Why I think this makes really good horror is I like horror where necessarily you cannot fight back.
Yeah.
Or even if you can fight back, it doesn't keep them gone forever.
Yeah.
So, because to me that's the scariest thing. Getting continuously hunted. So you're always paranoid. You're always looking over your shoulder. And just watching for any bit of movement, listening out. Like, it's... When I start getting paranoid is when I know the characters are paranoid. And it makes me feel really interested in what's going on. So... That's why I think Alien Isolation does it incredibly well. But another thing that I think it does really right is not just the aliens that make the game so scary.
Oh.
The atmosphere of the ship is just immaculate. It's dark, cluttered, and filled with narrow spaces and paths that make you feel like the whole place is just claustrophobic. You're trapped in just a metal tomb for a lot of the thing. Vents, which are all over the place, are not only used by you to navigate, but xenomorphs can also run into them and kill you and use them to hunt you down. So you can there's no safe space.
Oh, no.
Ever. And that's the best. That's the best part of horror games like this. When you cannot feel safe.
Yeah.
When there's no safe space. Because you're always on edge. I love that type of stuff. And Aliens has been around for a very long time. The whole genre has been around for a very long time. The Xenomorphs are a classic, alien enemy, and, it's good to see that a good game or another good piece of media from the franchise still can terrify you years later.
To go back off what you were talking about, because there's two things. It's why games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil work so well, because you have Pyramid Head, you have...
You trying to think of Resident Evil?
Yeah, what's the main dude's name?
There's a few of them.
There's a few.
If we're talking about Resident Evil 2, there's Mr. X.
Mr. X. Isn't there Tycoon or whatever?
don't remember. But he's fucking terrifying because he's relentless and there's barely anything that does damage to him.
That's the scary thing of like same with Pyramid Head and some of the later editions of like these are monsters you cannot fight back and the only hope you have is running.
Mm-hmm. It's also why I like Outlast so much. Yeah, Outlast is a rough one, but I've played the entire game. It's a fun one.
Tyrant. That's the other one.
Yeah. Because there's no way to fight back in Outlast. Yeah. You just have to run, you have to hide, and you have to be smart.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do it.
You're forced into flight.
For sure.
When you at least with a fight or a flight, you have the option, and some other horror games, you tie between those two. But I think that's kind of almost what you're getting down to with just being the stalker, this like alien isolation of like you were just forced to flee.
Mm-hmm.
The only hope you have is outsmarting and outrunning.
Yes.
The second thing, and I'm just a little nerdy, the alien's AI is a 2-part AI. I don't know if you've heard about this.
I didn't, but that's I'm not surprised.
There's 2 levels to the alien's AI and how it functions. One is the learning part, where it starts the game out with base knowledge, and it goes, okay, let me see how the person is interacting with the environment, and that is how I am going to learn. That's why you get when you're in lockers, it tends to bang lockers. What makes Alien so scary is at higher level difficulties, the second part of the AI just naturally guesses your location.
Mm-hmm.
So while one part is learning your location and learning how you play, the second part, in a cheaty kind of way, just pinpoints you, but is only stopped by the first AI being like, okay, like, one part of me says, like, I know you're here, but the other part of me is like being like, okay, so they tend to do this, they tend to do that, so let me kind of, that's the main focus. That's why the alien is always relentless, is because a part of its AI is telling it your exact location. There. But the primary part of the AI that is actually functioning is the one that is consistently learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's why it always feels like sometimes when you haven't seen the alien in 30 minutes and it just randomly pops up, is because the video game is going, hey, it is too far. Let me essentially give it a snippet of your exact location so it to put it on the right track once again.
So, and it's why it's the most terrifying. God, because I got the game and I played a little bit of it to like have a discussion of this. I had a moment where I was gone. I left the area, left the xenomorph behind. Heard it again, went under the bed, and it just immediately went into the room.
Yeah,
but I had been going into lockers a lot to avoid it. So instead of looking for me under the bed, it just started opening the lockers, and I was like,
That's what makes that game so fun. Is it's not just a lot of AI. I would say like Silent Hill or Resident Evil. The AI is just like, okay, you are there, let me follow you, and you can kind of easily trick it. This AI being like, I know where you are, and I'm following you, but I'm also learning the way you try to evade me to counter evade like you. So it's such a fun game.
That's why it's so scary, is because it actually knows where you go.
Yeah.
It so much feels like you are being hunted.
Yeah.
And it is learning you. And that is the most terrifying thing you can have a thing hunting you get, is learn how you function.
Yeah. What makes it funny though is when you watch speedruns of that game, and it's like, alright, the alien is going to be about 3 feet in front of us, but it's scripted to go up to this, like, vent, so we're just going to... And you just see them running towards the alien, and then the alien is scripted to go into the vent. They're like, alright, we're moving on.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I've lost all form of being scared.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're just blowing through this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, speedrunners have to know everything mechanically, how it works, so it's great. So yeah, that's Alien Isolation. About most I wanted to talk about.
God, I love Aliens.
It's wonderful.
Aliens is one of those, not genres, but like pieces of media that just scares the shit out of me. And there's so much good content.
Absolutely.
I'll have to talk about Dr. Church one time. It's a comic where aliens don't have a queen, and so how they reproduce is through sexual means.
Oh,
so
really?
instead of like taking host of humans and then like having the queen facehugger them, they physically like have the males reproduce with the females and then have the females like eat this like weird slimy like it's like a pool that has some of the alien like I don't know if it's sperm, but it gets very weird and it focuses on Dr. Church, which is I think a scientist in a ship that accidentally finds them, and the gruesomeness of being like they don't have a queen and they're still making aliens, but it's through like human sexual means and then force feeding the females this like weird alien brine that essentially is making aliens.
That's so
and
cool.
And you're like, ugh, biological horror. It's just creepy.
Mm-hmm. It's very it's why the end of I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream is so like burnt into my mind, is because of that biological horror of like he's not even human anymore.
Yeah.
He got turned into basically like this mouthless immortal slug that this AI just gets to bully the hell out of and torture for the rest of his eternity.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything. I wish I could remember the other series, because when you talk about that, I always think about the other one, which is the weird alien race that comes down, or the alien species that comes down and like just enslaves humans, and it's cruel forms of like, oh, you're an alien species that tried to evade us by going into the earth. We're gonna genetically modify you to look like moles now, and like you have poor eyesight. You're gonna roll like the nose and the hands, and you're gonna be forced to live underground now. And it's these like weird alien creatures.
Isn't that a book that like made the like flesh wall or something? Yeah.
Where I can't remember why, but essentially they turned humanoids into living like flesh cubes that produce their like excrement. And it's the living flesh wall. They're all sentient. And it's like that level of biological horror. It's just like, oh,
it's terrifying.
Oh, please don't. Just kill me. But you can't kill me.
So next up,
what's the next one?
I gotta talk about it because it definitely influenced a lot of my DMing like horror elements. The Ritual. Okay. The Ritual is a movie made in 2017 about 4 friends from United Kingdom, Britain, who go on a multi-day hike in Sweden to honor their friend who was murdered in a liquor store.
Yeah.
While they hike, their one friend, I wrote that weird. Sorry. While they hike, one of their friends ends up hurting their leg. And they decide to try and take a shortcut through the woods to try to get to the lodges faster.
I forgot how that movie started.
I'm basically going to give you a small synopsis of the movie before we continue. They end up getting lost and start finding weird things within the woods. Multiple markings of runes are carved upon the trees. A deer carcass is mixed up and gutted in the trees.
I thought it was a bear.
Nope, it was a deer carcass. If I remember correct. They find a small cabin that they take shelter in that has a strange effigy. Yeah, it has a strange effigy of a deer-looking figure within it. They decide to stay in the cabin because their night has rolled up and there is a large storm that has started to pour down on them. So they're like, let's just stay in the cabin instead of bringing out the tents. While they're in the cabin, the men start having terrible dreams. And Luke, our main protagonist, is specifically having a dream about their dead friend Robert dying because he was there in the liquor store when it was being robbed. He hid behind some of the cabinets and grabbed a vodka bottle. He was going to help his friend. He was going to save him, but grew cowardly. And when his friend died, he blames himself for it. And we see this multiple times in the movie. They all awaken in different states and shaken. One of their friends is over the effigy praying in their dream. It's terrifying. And they are completely freaked out, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're like, we have no choice but to press on because we need to get to the lodge. There's nowhere else we can go. So they press on. And at some points, they have to rest again. They are obviously freaked out and really don't want to rest, but their friend Hutch, who's more of the survival and kind of the leader of the group, is like, hey, just set up the tents, we'll keep lookouts, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And Hutch is like, I'll look out, let's do that. So they set up camp. Luke awakens to have a bit of a midnight snack. He pulls out some stuff, and he hears something moving outside his tent. And as he looks outside, instead of seeing any creature or anything, the liquor store vision is in the woods.
I picture it.
Yep. Where Robert is getting struck down again, and the robber looks up to him and calls him a coward.
Oh.
His friends all come up because of the noise, and Hutch is taken by something. We don't see what it is. They give chase, and after a while, they find Hutch, same as the deer, hung up on the tree, completely gutted.
Yeah.
They bring him down and, again, are obviously terrified and basically have their strongest friend is just dead.
Yeah, the survivalist.
Their survivalist is dead. So they're like, oh, okay, what do we do? And this is where Luke is kind of like, we just gotta keep going. There's nothing else we can do. Yeah. And they're all obviously traumatized by this. And so what they decide to do, even as night begins to come upon them again, they continue to trudge forward. They decide there's no need to camp because it will just get them killed. So they need to just keep going.
It's kind of the smart move.
It's honestly, how they handle the characters in this is completely realistic. It's
absolutely.
Like, none of them feel like the dumb, I wouldn't have done that in this situation kind of characters. No, a lot of them are like, one of them is whiny, but like that's, you're gonna have that friend who's whiny because he hurt his leg. Yeah, that happens. They do get into a bit of a tiff where the friend who's hurt basically is like, you're starting to stick up now. Where were you whenever our friend died? Blah, blah, blah. You were there. Why didn't you do anything? Kind of banging in the nail. But it's just kind of doing that because he's also kind of grieving.
Yeah.
But they continue moving throughout the night, and they keep hearing noises around them. And throughout the whole movie, you don't see this monster until like the end, but you see glimpses of stuff moving. You see, like. It does so well of not showing the monster. Yeah. You get a hint of what it's like, but you really don't see it. It's wonderful. So they're throughout the night, and one of their friends is like, you hear that? And you hear the noise, and you hear the wind and everything that's kind of going throughout. And then suddenly that friend is grabbed by the legs and dragged. And they try to give chase again, but he's just gone. And you just hear the screams of everything. They're like, fuck, we can't do anything. So it's just Luke and the whiny friend. After a point, they find more cabins. Yeah. And they actually find people. And those people begin to attack them. And they get chained up. And the whiny friend specifically gets cut up and beaten by these people. And you start learning, because there's this woman there who starts kind of explaining to Luke. Luke, after the nightmare, woke up with these weird marks on his chest.
Yeah, the three little
triangle. And so they have not touched him. They've just kept him chained up. So she begins to explain, while his friend is being basically tortured, she begins to explain, you've been marked. We worship a god in these woods and has kept us all here for its worship. Mm-hmm. You have its mark. So it has chosen you to worship it as well. Yeah. And if you worship it, you can become one of the immortal ones. And he's like, okay, what the fuck? Okay, but what's happening to my friend? What are you doing to him? And they're like, we're setting him up. he's going to be the sacrifice for the ritual tonight. So you can be blessed and part of it. And they bring his friend back chained up. He's beaten to shit. He's bloody. And Luke is trying to get himself out of this so he can help his friend to redeem himself for the death of his other friends and being so cowardly. And his friend who's been beaten looks at him and says, "I know I'm going to die today. That was my vision that I saw. That was my dream. I was going to be hung up in the trees just like the rest, and I was going to look down at this place. If there's anything that you do tonight, burn this place."
Yeah.
And exactly what comes. The friend gets dragged out, gets put on a pyre for the ritual. And again, you don't see the monster. Instead, you see the wife of this person come up to him. And he's delighted. He's so overjoyed to see his wife. Even if he's hung up in this place. And he's just delighted to see his wife. And his wife puts her hands onto his face very lovingly. And then he blinks. And you see the face for the first time of Mater. The monster that is there. Ugh. And it picks him up and you just hear him scream. And then for the first time you see it you would imagine a monster like this would just tear you apart or something like that. Not at all. It picks him up, goes to a tree, and skewers him onto the branches.
Yeah.
And that's how that one dies. Obviously, Luke does escape. He finds the shotgun, I believe, and then just starts looking throughout the place. He gets upstairs, and you know how I talked about him being marked and joining the immortal
ones? He gets to find them.
It's basically like this weird church hall.
Yeah.
With what looks like withered corpses all around on these like seats, and an effigy of Mater there.
Yeah. And
he's like, "What the fuck is this?" But they're not dead.
No, they're the immortal ones.
They're the immortal ones. So you see them withered and gross. They don't move all that much, but you see them breathe and like call out a bit. And so Luke finds a torch and starts burning the entire place to the ground.
There's one thing he's going to do. He's going to follow his friend's wishes.
He's going to follow his friend's wishes, and he burns the place to the ground. And as he comes down, the cultists are running around screaming. They're terrified, trying to set up the fire. He starts blasting and, being cool. But then everything just stops. And the cultists kneel. And Luke looks and sees Mater right above him.
Mm-hmm.
And it just pushes him down and makes him bow. He stands up trying to, not succumb to whatever this thing is. And it gets angry and it picks him up and slams him to the ground. And he looks again, and the same vision plays once more of his friend. But instead of the fear, he finds the courage.
Yeah.
Blasts Mater in the face. Fucking bolts. And after a bit of running and trying to get away from this thing, he gets to an edge.
Because I think at this point, he doesn't have the shotgun. He's like holding he gets like a hand axe.
Something like that. I think, he didn't blast it. He hit
cuts,
it.
Because then he's standing there with like a hand axe.
Yeah.
There's like a fireman's axe almost.
It was something like that. It was like a wood cutting axe.
Yeah.
And he hit it in Mater's face. Mater tries to hit him down and do this whole fight. Luke just bolts and runs, and they get to an edge as the sun is rising. And Mater stops. And you see this kind of invisible barrier kind of shimmer through. And it just kind of screams out at Luke. Luke just looks at it and just screams right back. And then he sees the lodge out in the distance. and that's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
This movie, while I know not everybody's gonna love it, and I know the ending is kind of the rest of it is so goddamn good.
The end, I think, because there's a bit more nicheness to it in the ending that we're not able to fully describe. Because there's a moment where, if I can remember the ending correctly, like, he almost gets to the end. The martyr has a moment where it's less of like you have to bow to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sort of like, okay, would you please?
Yeah, honestly.
And I think Luke almost succumbs to it, and he gets that same sort of vision and like attacks the martyr, and then that's where you get the scene where like he's backing up, and then the martyr
grabs him
and like throw, and so it's like it's this playful back and forth of it's not just. Obviously, the martyr is smart, and it's willing to be like, okay, I'm willing to ask, I'm willing to see if I can go the nice route, but then it's that chase, and it's the end, and eventually, when she knows that she can't have Luke, it's that frustration of like, well, you left my forest. Damn.
I can't, I'm literally sealed here. I can't leave it. Fuck you, kind of thing.
God, it's one of the, like I said before, I really don't watch a lot of horror movies, and this is one that you and another one of our friends, I will say coerced, forcefully made me watch.
But it's so good.
But it is a very good movie, but it is that truly guttural fear.
For sure. Because, again, just like the xenomorph, just like the alien, what makes this so good, it is psychological horror. It's not just, it's the same as like you're being hunted.
Yeah.
You are. But it's not just hunting you. It's getting in your head. It's showing you your biggest regrets, your biggest fear of that day. It's fucking with your mind to weaken you, get you scared, and then it takes you. And it doesn't even just kill you. It hangs you up.
Yeah.
It shows you off. Every time they put somebody on the tree, they immediately find the thing because the martyr wants them to see it.
Yeah.
Because it wants to show how powerful it is.
Yeah.
So it's just so good.
It's such a terrifying movie.
The premise is so interesting. And it's the fact that you just don't see martyr for majority of the movie, I think, is the
unless you know where to look.
Unless you know where to look.
Because are you going to talk about it?
Oh yeah, because there are multiple scenes where you just see slight movements.
Yeah.
And you see the silhouettes or
if you know where to look, there's a scene where it's incredibly hard to see unless you know it, but it's literally the eye and its hand grabbing a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so perfectly blended in the background, which is kind of why I think The Ritual is such a great second watch.
Yes.
Because you're seeing, like, oh shit, it's in the background right now, it's watching them, or, oh, that little shadow was actually the martyr, it's not just...
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand the movie, I don't know what's happening, you're like, I'm seeing the little bit of it in the background stalking them.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful, and it just makes everything terrifying, because you know you're not safe.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one of the few movies where I was genuinely like, this is terrifying. Because there's not a lot of movies where I'm just like, oh, I'm scared. Because it usually just gives me the cheap jump scare or something like that, or it's like a slasher one, or like stuff like that. This was a horror movie that genuinely terrified me.
Was there jump scares in this movie?
No, there was not a single one.
There might have been a cheap small one.
Probably.
But none that are like classic. This was...
I think the jump scare was the turn into martyr after the wife grabbed it.
Yeah, but that's not like a...
Yeah, it's not really. Like, something's off the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this one is just suspenseful. So, I highly recommend this movie to anyone. It's just so good. Like, gotta love it.
Oh, yeah.
So, last one I kind of want to talk about is another game.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of games, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the media that I take in the most. This is a game I have played as well. It's a very classic game, and I've this is where the YouTubers back in the day would play this game all the time, and I played it again. It still holds up.
Okay.
Amnesia:
The Dark Descent. Yeah.
What can I say?
It's a cult classic for a reason.
It's a cult classic for a reason. A lot of the well-known YouTubers that you would probably know, like Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, you know, all got their start playing this stupid game. And it's fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I played this last year, and I was still horrified.
Yeah.
It is that same kind of feeling that Alien Isolation gives, where you are alone in a dark, creepy castle. You have a sanity meter.
Yeah.
Your sanity can go down and make things much worse. The less sanity you have, the more noises you hear, the more apparitions that you see, and it keeps you on edge the entire time. There are moments of safety. There are moments that you have where it is fine and safe. But again, you cannot attack. There's no way to defend yourself. The only thing you can do is hide and run.
Mm-hmm. Can't you turn your lamp up?
Yes.
That's like your only form of defense is just brightening your lamp.
So that's how you keep your sanity from going down and stuff like
that.
Oh,
okay, I got you.
But with the lamp, your light goes out. Your light can go out because you have an oil gauge. As well as, you can't always have your light on because monsters can see you when the lights are on.
Yeah.
So you need to be in dark places to hide. So it's this crazy back and forth, and it's also a puzzle game. So you're also trying to get resources and stuff like that to solve these puzzles, so you can learn more of Daniel's quest. Who Daniel is the character that you play. At least I think his name is Daniel. He has amnesia, obviously. It's a self-purposed amnesia. And you learn more and more that he was here by the invite of the master of this castle, who basically Daniel became a research assistant for.
It is Daniel. Yes.
Yeah, and I believe his name is Alexander.
Alexander.
Yeah. Alexander Hamilton. But Alexander started doing some very not good experiments that you helped with. That you start learning, you helped with. But now it's your job, because you give yourself amnesia to basically...
Alexander, yes.
Yeah, basically learn, go throughout the castle and undo the terrible things that you and Alexander have done. Mm-hmm. The creatures that you go through are part of the experiments that Alexander have made.
Spoilers?
It's a fucking 15-year-old game at this point.
I haven't seen it.
Have you not?
Oh, I said before, I don't do horror.
We gotta play it together at some point.
Oh my god.
A blast.
I probably would, but I'd have to put a catheter in me. A diaper. When I say I don't do horror, I don't do horror. Yeah. The Ritual is one of the few horror movies I've ever watched.
It's wonderful.
But yeah, no, Amnesia is like Silent Hill and Resident Evil for a reason. It is a prime example of its genre of horror.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of survival horror.
Survival horror? Absolutely. Because what is there to survive if nothing is chasing you?
That is true.
That's the danger of survival horror. It's the danger of Outlast and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
If nothing's chasing me, then I don't really have to survive.
But the reason I chose Amnesia over so many other games that do it is, one, because of its classic nature.
Yeah.
The fact that it was kind of one of the first ones to make... Because Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I would say, are different from Amnesia-like games.
Yes.
Because you can at least fight back in those, and you have, resource... That's more of a resource management one.
Mm-hmm.
Amnesia and the other ones, you have to hide, you have no way to defend yourself. And while it has some resource management, for Outlast's batteries, necessarily you don't need those new resources necessarily to survive. It just helps.
There's I'm trying to look it up to see what it is. There's a Call of Cthulhu game that is incredibly similar to Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
I think it is just called Call of Cthulhu.
No, okay, so there's two of them. There's the 2016 Call of Cthulhu, which is a good game. It is more of an investigation. It's not really horror.
Yeah.
You deal with sanity, you deal with cosmic horror, but it's not like you're like, ooh.
Is that the Unsinking City one?
No. That is action, and that's not really... It is also cosmic horror, but that is more of an action. It's old. It's like 2005, I think. And it's the same. Like you deal with. It's very similar to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Okay, when I type in old, I don't want the new brand new game.
Well,
Dark
2006
Corners of the Earth,
probably. But yeah, going back to Amnesia a bit, again, the reason I chose it is for its classic nature, but also because I really like the effects that it has on you as a player. Because there's not many games that, like, mess with the sanity mechanic.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, you can hear just random noises, just because your sanity is low, makes you as a player more paranoid.
That's the beautiful thing about cosmic horror, specifically because you deal with sanity. You deal with the thing that is chasing me is not just a monstrosity. It's not just alien. It's not just creepy. It is physically alternating my cognitive perception into seeing, hearing, experiencing things that are not there. And it's why I love both Call of Cthulhu, the game. There's, I think Call of Cthulhu is much more of a good investigation horror. The Sinking City does a much better job of sanity because it's the same thing. Like when you see the monsters, your sanity goes down. You start to see like images of you hanging or like whispers and creatures. You physically start to see like ink black versions of the monsters that when you shoot just explode into ink. Like you actually are having to deal with what your sanity loss is.
But you're also a private eye. So
it's going back to the assassin. If you want a good story plot, there's no better person to do things that shouldn't be done than an assassin or a private eye.
You're not wrong. So you're also a private eye who's like been in a war, so you know how to handle guns and stuff like that. So like, while there's like some resources and you're limited on your bullets sometimes, you know how to handle yourself, so you can handle these creatures. It's more of the outer cosmic elements that make this game actually kind of scary. And I would agree with you. It's more of an action game than it is a survival horror.
Yeah, the Sinking City is. The Call of Cthulhu is much better though, because you don't really get a weapon. It's more of just you're running, you're investigating, you're trying to figure out shit.
Don't attack me.
And it has the elements of Amnesia, not to the full extent, because there is a bit more of a front-facing storyline to it. Marmar, push her off the table. Have you read anything about or watched the Amnesia Rebirth game?
I have not.
It's not that good.
Heard.
I started watching it and I got pretty far into it. So take everything that what you love about Amnesia and erase it.
Oh, okay.
That's what you have for Amnesia Rebirth.
Is this the
newest one? The newest one.
Okay.
You follow a girl who crashes in a plane crash. Everybody's gone. She has amnesia. She doesn't know where she is.
This isn't the newest one.
Is there a new one?
There's a new one where you're like World War I trenches, and it goes way back into the actual survival.
Whoa!
It's good. It's real good.
Amnesia games. I did not know they made a new one.
Yeah,
Amnesia the Bunker. I have heard a little bit about this. No, it's not this one. I almost forgot that existed.
It's good.
Yeah, so Amnesia Rebirth is 2020, and Amnesia Bunker was last year, 2023. But yeah, Rebirth is this weird, like, yeah, you're this girl who's playing Crash, everybody's gone. There are kind of monsters, but they're in your kind of regional, like, dungeon, in a sense. Like, you go through the cave, and it's the monster element. But it's a very interesting story where, like, I guess you gave yourself amnesia, kind of like the first game, but you're going through, what is it, Algeria. And so it's like desert, and it's very strange, and there's not that feeling of horror to it.
I believe Markiplier played it. If I remember correct.
Maybe I was watching my one person, and he kind of eventually stopped, but I should look into the Bunker, because...
Bunker, from what I've seen so far, actually fucking terrifying.
Yeah, because this looks...
It's scary.
Yeah.
So, from what I know of the Bunker, and which is very limited, you play as a soldier who got wounded, and you wake up in a bunker and no one is there. You find a flashlight, but it's one of those old, like, pulley flashlights where you have to consistently pull.
It's like a circle that he's holding, like a disc almost.
So you have to consistently pull the motor to actually have the flashlight going, and it's really not bright at all. Yeah. So there's only one monster in this game, and it consistently hunts you down. So you have to be careful. It hates light. So anytime it gets dark, and you have to use your flashlight is when you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You have to consistently go and find generators to, like, turn them on, and you do have a gun with so very few bullets.
Yeah.
And that gun doesn't really hurt it. It can send the monster back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it'll run away. But that is your only means of defense. It's horrifying.
We're in an age now with video games where our graphics are starting to get really good. Not really good. We're starting to get incredible graphics. I love when games kind of purposely go back, because if you look into the Bunker, it is not like 4K realistic graphics. It looks like a 2010s horror game.
Oh, for sure.
But I just know the quality is good, and I know the gameplay... Well, I won't say the gameplay. It looks beautifully because I know it's made now, but has that feel like a 2010 game.
And it still has that, like, sanity and everything to it that messes with your head and, like, just fucks with you. And, oh, God. I just love when games fuck with me like that. Like, if I'm going to play a horror game, I want to play a horror game that just fucks with me.
It's kind of why I don't like Outlast. Because its horror is just gruesome and chase.
Yes.
I don't feel like it really is... Of course... no, I'll be honest. I don't feel like it tells a story much.
Not really.
Because the main part of it is, okay, I'm walking through a chase sequence, run sequence, I'm walking through gruesome, blood, torture, horribleness. It does good for, like, obviously increasing heart rate and getting that feeling of being scared. But we're both into that sort of type of genre where it's like, let me explore the horror. It gave me, like, a chase sequence or two. But that chase sequence is just a video game's jump scare. Of course it's going to be intense. Of course you're going to have your heart racing. Because that's literally the point of it. There is no other, like, narrative storytelling to a chase sequence other than just, I'm supposed to be freaking out.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it is gruesome. Like, Outlast gets fucking gnarly.
Nice.
So, honestly, Outlast is a very good horror game for people who really like slasher.
Yeah.
It's a very good slasher.
If you love a good body horror movie, play or at least watch Outlast.
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And the second one is okay, from what I know. It's
Is that Whistleblower or is that the DLC?
No, Whistleblower is the DLC. There's a whole Outlast too.
What's the fucking second game?
Second game is more like Christianity cult stuff.
I actually enjoyed the second game a bit more. But I always like a two-world dynamic.
For me, it was more the characters were just in it to me, but...
That's fair. I found it to be much more intense and actually horror going through like I don't know where it's located, but it's like Ohio mountain.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Southern neglected town, and you're being chased through cornfields, and you're going through different parts, and the Christianity part is like, it's fair, but I found 2 to be kind of what we were talking about, much more horror, because it's less immediately gruesome. It's less
fair.
like, okay, I'm just torturing someone, and you're seeing horribleness. It's more of a, okay, you're slowly experiencing the natural horror that's going around.
And to be fair, I've only watched the second one. I haven't played the second one, so like, and I find that playing them have way more of an experience for me than watching them. So maybe I just need to play it, and maybe I'll have different opinions on it. So
don't get me wrong, I don't like either of the games. I don't.
Fair enough.
I have a hard time when horror games just consistently fuck the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's his name? Not Ethan. That's Rezi. I can't remember the guy's name in Outlast.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
really.
but like in both games, he's consistently just getting fucked.
He is.
Like he gets no break, and it's not even like, ooh, I'm intense. It's like, okay, how long until the next person catches him and does something horrible to him?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's at this point, it's just a given story element.
Yep, because he gets thrown out the window.
Yeah.
You get chased again, and you get taken. You're like, oh, it's this one dude who actually sounds sane.
Oh
who's
yeah,
trying to help
one.
me, and it's actually this insane fucking doctor who's like, I'm gonna fuck with you a little bit.
Cut off a few fingers.
And blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Yeah.
Like at the time, because I played the game when I was like 10-ish, you know. At the time, terrifying because I'm a 10-year-old. Nowadays, I'm like,
it's still terrifying.
It's still terrifying, just not my kind of terrifying.
It's just kind of a cheap terrifying.
Mm-hmm. But that being said, those are kind of all my examples. I know there are plenty more that are probably much better, if not like, you know, stuff like that. But these are my personal favorites that I just really enjoy.
If you want some good cosmic horrors, there are a lot of movies out there. There's not many games.
It's hard to do games.
It's hard to do cosmic horror in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. You should see it. Annihilation.
I've heard of that one.
It's really good movie. But there's a lot of fun horror movies. I don't know if it's a horror movie. Me and my boyfriend are going to watch it because it's sci-fi. I had a TikTok video come across my feed where it's Adam Sandler in a space station. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Adam Sandler in general. I don't find his comedy very funny.
Fair enough.
This man had rent due because he's like, he turns around, he's in kind of a sci-fi garb. He has like what looks like a voice, like a little box that looks like they would like have some sort of mic into it.
Mm-hmm.
And he like turns down the ship corridor because he's in 0G, and he's like, "Who are you?" And the camera pans to a about horse-sized spider at the like on top of the ship, like or on top of the hallway.
Ooh.
And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And this like spider creature's like, "Oh, I was on the edge of the galaxy, and like I was going through, and I felt the presence of humans, and now I'm here, and I wish to study you, and then I found you alone in this spaceship." And once again, I'll show you it after we end the episode.
Please do.
But it's this like creepy, and I don't think it's horror. I think a little bit of it is, but from what I've seen, it kind of is more of like this alien took a form of this, and it's just like weird. But I'm like, it's Adam Sandler, and he's fucking acting. He is going.
Here's the thing: Adam Sandler can be a really good actor.
Yeah,
he's just not always the best director.
Comedy, very funny. But yeah, this movie, this TikTok, when it pans over to this humongous upside down spider, it's got like a tentacle in it or something, and it begins to speak this deep, guttural, like almost radioistic sound. I was like, I'm gonna go piss myself. Because that's the same biological horror kind of thing.
I'm from this faraway galaxy.
It's not far off, but yeah, it's weird.
Fun.
But yeah, Annihilation, go watch the Alien movies, go play the Alien games.
Absolutely. Cannot recommend them enough. Fucking love Alien.
I'm trying to think of other like fun, because I love cosmic horror. Go read H.P. Lovecraft's original works.
Yep.
Horrible person. Go read his works, though.
Go read his works. The works are really great. If anything, read some good adaptations as well.
Yeah.
There's some great adaptations.
Yeah.
Play the Tabletop RPG. This is super fun.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, Call of
Call of
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
In terms of anything else horror, again, horror is subjective. Let us know. Like, what are the horror medias that you think we should
Oh my god,
check
like,
out?
comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell.
I hate it every time.
Let us know in the comments what horror... we say this like anyone ever answers, but still, what horror you do love and what horror you find stupid. Because if you're in horror, you're a diehard fan of one thing, and you're like, this is the most stupidest media that I've ever seen in another thing.
I agree.
Of like, we love kind of stalker psychological horror. I hate slasher films.
We're going to have to talk about slasher films
But you can talk about it.
Sure.
I will have no input.
Because I know there are some good ones out there.
I'm not saying they're bad. I just hate them.
No, that's fair.
And I know a lot of people that like love slasher films don't really like religious horror.
Yeah.
Like ghosts and demons and all that stuff.
Midsummer, I would say, is a religious horror.
Oh my god, we just need to talk about A24 in general.
Yeah, honestly.
Because there's some good movies. It is a weird company where they're kind of bought out half the time, where like half their movies are shitty, indie, like really weird. Like, why are you making this? And the other half are like masterful artworks that should go into like annals of history.
Like, I would say, yeah, because just going into Midsummer, because I fucking love that movie.
I mean, there's Midsommar. I would talk about The Green Knight.
Yeah.
Because that's slightly horror, but that's more of the impending doom than it is horror.
That's still a horror, though.
It is.
Because, like, you could argue that grimdark, which is a thing that I don't really enjoy, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Like,
you're not supposed to enjoy grimdark.
But, like, you could argue grimdark is its own flavor of horror.
Yeah.
Which I would say it absolutely is.
Yeah,
so.
A24 excels in incredibly interesting horror. They had The Witch. I
watched The Witch. It's so good.
They had the weird one where the mom gives birth to like a half lamb child.
I haven't seen that one. That's
one of the newer ones. They like live in, think of like Ireland shepherd kind of thing, and like the mom gives birth to a sheep gives birth to a half sheep, half human. And it's this weird thing where they take care of the child and all that. Oh, Hereditary is the other movie. That's what I'm thinking.
Hereditary, okay.
I don't know what
I've heard of that one.
I think it might just be The Lamb.
Oh, I've heard of The Lamb.
It's just called Lamb.
I think I've seen clips.
All A24 movies get really pushed to like ads because they're great movies. But yeah. Oh, hey, Iceland. That's pretty close.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, pregnant sheep give birth to a human sheep hybrid, and they like take care of it, and shit obviously gets weird when it comes to A24. But God, those movies are good.
I agree. Anyhow,
that's all for me.
That's all for me. Go enjoy some horror. This feels like it should be a Halloween episode or something.
Oh my god, what are we gonna do? We should talk about something during Halloween.
Oh,
it's so far from now, though.
We're absolutely gonna have a horror special. Are you kidding me?
No.
Why not?
Because that's not just what Halloween is.
Okay, then let's talk about like Wiccan stuff. I think that'd be interesting.
We also could talk about our favorite things about. Because if you want to talk about horror during Halloween, that's cool. We can talk about our favorite things to do in Halloween.
That's a good idea.
Like, if you want to talk about like, oh, I love watching horror movies on Halloween. I might talk about the consumerism of America and how we, leading kids to obesity through an act of holiday.
Getting candy.
Yeah. No, I actually don't know what I'd probably talk about. If anything, I might talk about like Halloween children movies and that weird phenomenon of having like The Nightmare Before Christmas, Frankenweenie, like these weirdly
but those are
family-friendly Halloween movies.
Oh, but Tim Burton though is just so good.
Oh my god, yeah. And then you get to things like Halloween Town, Twitches, like weird
my
Halloween teen movies.
Oh, just a whole vault just unlocked in my brain. Love it.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm gonna do next week, so it'll be a surprise.
Yeah.
We've done some video games recently. We've done horror. I don't know.
We'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe.
At a certain point, it's just going to be us rambling about just things we enjoy.
Hey, it was from day one.
Yeah. Like, we might not have a topic at some point and just be like, I just really want to talk about this today.
There are times where we start episodes and I'm like, maybe we just rename this episode to what our weekly obsession is.
I know.
Like, we've spent a little too long. Could be the new episode.
Mm-hmm.
One day it's going to happen.
It absolutely will. And we'll have an episode that's just called Weekly Obsessions, and it'll just be us talking about weekly obsessions the entire episode.
God, I would love it. But
okay, that's a good episode. All right.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.